So when compounding in pharmacy, you always want to make sure that your products are within a 5% error range. It could be less than that depending on what the pharmacist wants, but a general rule of thumb is that you should be within 5% error. You can make sure that you're within 5% error two different ways. So the first way is to find the exact percent of error after you measure something. So this would be every time you're measuring something, you would have to go back and do a calculation. Or you could just calculate your range that you need to be within, which is my preferred method. So first, let's look at calculating the exact percent of error. So I gave you guys the little equation here that I would use for that. So you take your measured amount, so whatever you actually measured when trying to get the expected amount, you subtract it by your expected amount or the amount you're trying to find. You divide that over your expected amount and you multiply that by 100. And this will give you your exact percent of error. And then you can see if that is within that 5% range. If it is, it's good. If it's higher than 5%, then you would need to remeasure. The second way, as I said, my preferred way is to calculate your range expected from your 5%. And to do this, you would find what 5% of that amount is, whatever your expected amount is, and you would then make your range by adding that 5% to your expected amount and subtracting it from your expected amount. You take those two numbers together and that's your range. So let's look at a couple examples. Okay, so our example is we are trying to find 5 grams within that 5% error. So let's just say we weighed out some powder and we found 4.9 grams. And we want to know if that's within 5% error. And let's just say we want to first do the method of finding the exact amount of error here. So we would take our 4.9 grams, subtract that from our 5 grams, divide that from our 5 grams, and then multiply that by 100. And I'm doing this just by plugging our amounts into our given formula. Measured minus expected, divide by expected, times 100. So here we have measured minus expected, divided by expected, times 100. So if we actually do the math here, we get negative 0.1 divided by 5, which would equal negative 0.02, times that by 100, and we get negative 2%. When we say 5% error, we mean plus or negative 5% error technically. So because we're not 5 units off, this would actually work. This would check out. Okay, so next we're going to use the same example of the 4.9 grams, but we are going to use this formula. Expected times 0.05 equals 5% of that amount. And then we're going to write our range down and make sure that whatever we're measuring falls within our range. So that way you don't have to keep doing math equations. You can just do this once. And if you keep having to go back to remeasure things, you're good. Okay, so here our expected amount was 5 grams times 5%, 0.05. And if we do that, we get 0.25. So remember, then we're going to have to plus and minus 0.25 from our original 5 grams. If we do that, we end up with a range of 4.75 to 5.25 grams. So anything within this range would check out. And remember, we measured 4.9 grams. That was our original measurement. We were trying to figure out if that would check out. So as you can see, 4.9 grams would fit in this range, so it checks out.